I think that he really encapsulates the definition of humanitarian. He keeps people in mind. He's looking out for the downtrodden, the needy, the people who could use some help, use a hand up, and Doug is there to give it. And I think that that's a trait that many people could have but don't have. He has it, and he puts it to work, and he doesn't beat the drum about what he's doing.
Let me tell you a story about Doug. Doug, in addition to being at the time chairman of the local Red Cross board, he served on the National Red Cross board. We worked together on a disaster occurrence, and Doug Dietrich showed up at about 7 o'clock in the morning. Doug walked in and said to me, "What can I do to help?" Which is typical of Doug. He's a hands-on person. He wants to be involved, and he's not above the manual work. I said to Doug, "We have to fold up the cots, we have to put them in boxes." I said, "It's all pretty mundane kind of work. You probably don't want to be involved." He said, "Show me what to do." And we spent the whole morning together taking the gymnasium apart and restoring it to its original condition. That's typical of Doug Dietrich.
Doug Dietrich is a man that doesn't sit still. He's not a man that gives less than 110% of himself to causes that he believes in. The children in Haiti, Valley Hospital, Christian Healthcare Center, the Ridgewood Rotary, so many organizations and causes that have benefited greatly by Doug because of the way in which he invests himself, the way in which he puts himself into the needs and supporting the causes of these organizations, and looks to reach out into the community to spread his passion and energy to others, to invite them to be a part of that success as well.
I had parents who taught us, both my brother and sister and I, to participate in our community. And so when I left the General Electric Company and my extensive travel, I had an opportunity to participate in the community, and just did. So in Ridgewood, I was able to participate in the Board of Education for 9 years, in their local Rotary Club, in the American Red Cross chapter, certainly with the Boy Scouts, which had been my father's passion, and was able then to take some of those to a national level, where I served on the American Red Cross Board for 6 years, and I still serve on the Boy Scouts of America National Board. So it's been teaching of my parents that you got to participate in the community, and it allowed me to do that. That then carried on into other organizations here, such as Christian Health Center, where I was fortunate to be asked by some friends to come up and participate. Certainly the local hospital at the Valley Hospital, where I've also served for a number of years.
The other thing that he's been very involved in, it's called Theo's work in Haiti. And I don't know how many times he's been to Haiti. He has given and done so much for the Haitian people and the children of Haiti that were left as orphans. And he does all of these things very quietly, very unobtrusively. And unless somebody tells you, "Oh, Doug left for Haiti last night," you're never going to know.
We went to Haiti, to the town of Okai, and it was quite an experience for all of us, and has been through the years. To build an orphanage, we acquired a 150-acre farm. We have built a village there called Espoir, which means hope in Haitian. We built that village. We probably have some 45 buildings on it now, many dormitories for the children, a major dining hall, a school for elementary school, a school for the advanced children, and then technical schools, all of which are on our grounds. So we now have about 50 girls have now joined our orphanage. We have about 700 young boys there, plus a turnover because we've been there through all these years. Our school, which started out with 1 grade, now provides 12 grades of school, so we have the entire elementary curriculum.
I think in a couple of words, I think he's a straight shooter. I'd put it that way. I don't think there's any subterfuge in any conversation he has with you. If he talks to you, you know exactly what he's saying and what he means and what he intends to mean. So I think that's a great characteristic. I don't think you ever have to doubt that, oh, he's telling you something and then he's really going to tell somebody else something different about that. I think he has a position and he lets it be known. And that's, a candid attitude that not everyone possesses, and I think it's admirable.
Doug was very intrigued by the full nature of the continuum of what's offered here at Christian Healthcare Center. He especially appreciated the strong connection that we had with Valley Hospital, where he's had a long association. And I think it was because of the shared culture of those two organizations and the way in which we both have a history of working so well together to serve community that he was further interested in getting more involved. He knew people like Gary Dykehouse that he had worked with at the American Red Cross, had heard a lot of good things, but now he had the opportunity to see it himself. And it was so encouraging and so inspiring for leaders like myself to see Doug become excited and to get involved 100%, more than 100%, to really get involved in helping the community understand that much more about who we are and what we do.
The people at the Christian Health Center just do an excellent job of working with their patients and clients. And it's a pleasure to see them when we get to see them at work, when we get to celebrate occasions with them. And they are really concerned about their clients, and they have a long-term relationship with them, which has been very impressive to see. You like working with people who care about their mission, who care about caring for people, and the Christian Health Center does that.
The decision to honor Doug Dittrich along with David Crandall was a joint one, again, recognizing the contribution that both had made to the center and to the community. Both of them would not feel they should be honored. They would both have suggestions for other people who should be recognized, and I'm sure they both would be very humbled by the choice.
My first impression of David was that he was someone who walked very sincerely and humbly with the Lord 24 hours a day.
I met David Crandall as the director of the foundation at Christian Health Center. And somehow David and I bonded. I got him to join our local Rotary Club. I always felt that I was David's big brother, and we spent an awful lot of time having coffee together. I would encourage him to do things and participate in things, and I, as a result, supported him in what he was doing, both at Christian Health Center and through his ministry to the Chinese youth in Bergen County. David was always on the go.
It was just amazing to see the Christian community there, and David he just jumped right in. He knew how to interact with the people, and when he was there, he already won their affection, and he already commanded their respect, almost just by being in the room.
I think Dad, his whole life was about service. I mean, every job he did, his whole career, I think, was dedicated to community, whether it was within a church or later within the CHCC realm and the East Bergen Christian Church. And his whole life is about service. And when I think about him, that's just a part of who he was. I remember as a child, we lived in Texas just off the highway. We were one of the first houses, and for some reason or another, we got everybody who had problems on the highway stopped at our house. And I don't know if it's because we were the only ones who opened the door, or if people knew he was a minister, but he treated everybody with great humanity and kindness who needed help. So it was part of who he was.
I think the main thing I learned from my dad was the importance of people and relationships. and everything he did, he always connected with people. He had a real gift for reaching out and connecting with people very quickly. I think the other thing I learned too was he always supported the underdog. So whenever we were watching a sports game, as long as it wasn't the Cowboys, he would he would support whatever team was the underdog. And he had a real, I think, appreciation for the everyman, the guy on the street, the regular person. And I think that's influenced me to try to have that same regard for people, regardless of their status or their importance in the world. It's a big influence on me.
David is one of those true friends that probably only come around once in a lifetime. He just was sincere, humble. He opened up, but mostly the conversation was about the other person rather than himself, and he just made you feel at ease. Even when you gave an idea that took a long time, he knew how to synthesize it in a few words, and he never made you feel inferior.
He had the opportunity to see the kingdom in all corners of the globe, and whether he was having a Bible study here with one of our residents, meeting with a donor in the community, worshiping in his church, meeting somebody on an airplane as he was flying to Africa to teach students there. He was sincere, and he was who he was all the time.
Some of my fondest and most poignant memories were from when we took trips together, not just to New York City, but he led us on 2 trips to Africa. Once through Kenya, we went to Zambia, and once through South Africa, we went to Zambia. And to see David be really enthusiastic about that and just light up at the opportunity to meet some new brothers and sisters, to meet some new Christians, to meet people who are pastors in training. He had been a pastor his whole life, and to see others who wanted to do that also, just in a new place, he was really excited to do that. He really saw the, I guess, eternal and overarching importance of being there. And when I saw that, it just confirmed that he was a genuine man. And for me in my own life, I wanted to be like that too.
There was a time in one of the churches my dad was pastoring that was a difficult time for the church, and the church was going through a trial. And it really weighed on my father. And he and I one night walked out to the church, and it was in the middle of a snowstorm, and the snow was coming down, and it was almost pink. It was a really beautiful evening. And together he and I walked around the church, the whole block of the church, 3 or 4 times, and just prayed for the church. And it was a very special, meaningful moment, I think, for he and I to do that together.
One of the things I learned from my dad, and I think it was a lesson that his father taught him, actually, when I think about it, was to do a good job and to finish well. And I think for people who worked with him, you know, it was the right font size and the right paper size and a report, and everything needed to be done well. And I think as a child growing up, book reports and projects had to be done well. It was always, we had to do our best. And I think that's something that's carried through my own life as a mother and as a professional, is to try and teach my kids, do your best. You know, you always need to finish well. And that was something that he was really big about. And he finished well. So.
My dad had a way of making everybody feel like you were his number one friend, and that was his gift. He could connect very quickly with anyone, and then at a very deep level too. It wasn't a superficial connection. And of course, as his children, it was tenfold, and I was his buddy, and they called me Buddy, and we called him Big Buddy. And one day, I was probably 6 or 7 years old, I heard him on the phone with a friend of his, and he signed off by saying, "Talk to you tomorrow, buddy," or "Thanks for the call, buddy." And I started crying and was very upset and came in and said, "I thought I was your buddy." And he said, "Oh, you're my little buddy." And he stopped calling other people buddy after that, though. I was the only buddy, so I managed to satisfy myself on that score.
Dad, was really creative. And I remember we had this Halloween haunted house one year when we lived in Greensboro, and it was, Dad did everything well, so this was an uber Halloween haunted house. And I remember, we had green peas for brains and spaghetti, cold spaghetti, and then at the end he
jumped out of a trash can.
had to scare the kids at the very end. So that was his contribution to the haunted house, was Dad in the garbage can.
Very few people knew all that he has done in this world. Not only his advanced degrees, he has a PhD, never introduced himself as Dr. Krentel, never. And it all was just part of who David is. And his kindness, his generosity of spirit, he really was a perfect fit for the Christian Healthcare Center.
During David's tenure with Christian Healthcare Center, he had the opportunity to meet with and interact with countless individuals and organizations throughout our community to help them understand who we serve, why we serve, and what the significance is of the name that we bear. David was so humble and sincere in the way in which he developed relationships and enabled individuals to develop that degree of connection with us themselves. The result of that has been countless gifts of time and treasure and prayer that have been brought to benefit this campus and those we serve. As I look throughout all of the programs, all the people that we serve at Christian Healthcare Center, I can see numerous ways in which the extent of those services, the quality of the environment within which care is provided, or the ability of us to continue to serve countless people in need has been impacted by the way in which David worked so hard and so genuinely to enlist other people to be a part of helping us to be the Christian Healthcare Center.
His attitude was that of a servant. He was willing to serve you. He was willing to serve the organizations that he had an association with. He was truly interested. It wasn't David performing a job. It was David pursuing his interests, and I think he was generally respected not only by the people he worked with, but by the community that he had association with. He was a wonderful person.
I remember being in my office in the morning after we had had a very successful fundraising event the night before. And certainly among them David, who was enjoying the ability to mix and mingle with our donors and friends and to get to know what's going on more in their lives, to talk about what's happening in Christian Healthcare Center. And then to be suddenly hit with the news that David had passed away suddenly during the night. It was a shock to think about someone who had been so active, so engaged in what they enjoy the most, and then suddenly to be gone.
When news of his passing spread to that place overseas, they were very sad also. They felt like they lost a close brother. Letters were written to us. News was forwarded to us where the wives were weeping for several days because they learned of his passing. So just evidence that he really touched them, and I could see how that happened. He touched all of us.
As a father and a grandfather, David was very proud of his family. He looked forward to the visits that he could have with them, and he came back glowing with the stories of the children and grandchildren and their latest accomplishments. He was proud of them.
The guy had a heart bigger than the world, and I always felt the privilege to be his friend. And every time we'd part, I don't know why, but David would always say, "You're my friend." And I tear up over that, because we were, and he was a good person. He left us much too early, much too early.
My final thought about this award is I wish he was here. And I wish that we were sitting with him at the table and laughing and honoring him together. I know he's watching us, but I wish he was here.
My dad was fun-loving. My dad was authentic. My dad loved people. He didn't stand on ceremony, so he found a way to connect through the social filters that we live with. He was a person of faith. I think he saw faith as a journey. I think he walked that journey his whole life, right to the end. I think he loved his family. He loved people. He loved a good adventure. He was a very energetic person. He was full of life. So, yeah, there just aren't that many like him, in my opinion.
I am very proud of him. I'm proud of who he was, what he represented, and what he did.